Welcome to Fairfield Celebrity Theater. I'm Bob Link, and today we welcome back into town a former Fairfield resident, Fairfield High School and Miami University graduate. He performed on the stage locally here in his youth, and he's gone on to perform in television, film, and the theater. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Lange. Welcome to Celebrity Theater.
Thank you, Bob.
Eric, what inspired you to get into acting?
I don't know if I was, when I was a kid, my mom kept this little diary of things I would do that was odd or interesting. And from a really young age, I was imitating people a lot. Like at 2.5, she had written down that I was imitating John Wayne, and I always liked to do little readings when I put on a little suit and tie on a TV table and read for my parents in the living room. It was once when I put on a gorilla suit and sat in the driveway and waved to passing cars. So there was some stimuli early on to do it, but I didn't mess with it. For the longest time, I was in choir when I was a kid, and all the way through to middle school. And in middle school, I got into what's called show choir, which is sequin vests and bow ties and jazz hands, and I was in a show choir for 3 years, and we would tour and compete, and that was sort of my entertainment fix. And then my freshman year in high school, there was no show choir. We were in our own school, the freshman school, because there were so many students. And a friend of mine, one of my best friends to this day, Nick Yort, said, "I'm going to this meeting for the drama club. You know, do you want to come?" And I thought, well, what the heck? And I did. And when I walked in there, I met all these people, this great group of the oddest, quirkiest, eccentric folks, but who were so confident and who were so alive and just amazing personalities. And I thought, boy, if this thing gives these people this kind of life inside, I want to know what that's about. So I started auditioning, and that was the start of it. So.
Do you remember what your first production was?
Absolutely. It was The Robber Bridegroom, and I wasn't even cast. I was an understudy, and with Nick, the man who introduced me to the whole thing, and so I only went on a couple times, but I remember distinctly when that show closed, the first time I went on, and the little curtain came down, and the curtain came back up, and everyone was clapping, and I was sitting on stage, and I remember just distinctly hearing in my voice, "I'm home. This feels like home," and that's where I've stayed.
The audience interaction.
So yeah, I don't know what it is. It's that electricity of a theater and a story and an audience and I don't know what it is. It's electric to me, and I couldn't leave it.
I think most people, when you're up on the stage, if it were me and I looked out and I saw 500, 600, 700 people, I would freeze. I would absolutely freeze because you can see their faces.
Yeah.
Do you watch the reaction you get when you're performing?
Well, it depends on the theater. A lot of theaters, it's so dark you can't really see anybody. And it's impossible, if you're looking out, not to sometimes see someone, maybe even sleeping, which is a little frustrating. Of course, it never happens to me, but
of course.
But no, you tend not to pay attention to that. I think the thing that people get confused or think would be frightening about it is like for me to talk about me in front of 700 people makes me quite nervous. But when you're playing a character, you sort of have that little shield you get to wear. You have another costume, So if anyone's judging you, it's not you. It's this other. You're just showing them something.
Yep.
Yeah, like you can juggle or anything else. It's just a character you're showing. So
sure,
it tends to allow you to feel a little more comfortable.
Was there any one person that inspired you to pursue? I mean, you mentioned Nick. Was there anybody that just jumps out besides Nick that?
Well, I would have to say Jim and Pat Davis, who ran the drama department at Fairfield, and still are very active in theater in Fairfield. In addition to being very talented at what they do, and they're just great human beings.
Yeah.
And were so supportive to all of us, and made it just such fun. It was really a great thing. So, and when I graduated, in fact, from high school, I was going to say my parents as well, but I don't know that my parents were on board completely about this acting thing until I graduated high school, and they asked Jim and Pat, they said, you might want to do this, what do you suggest? And they said, we don't often say kids should go into acting as a profession, but we think it'd be a good idea for Eric.
Yeah.
And they immediately were on board.
Eric, I remember the variety shows, the performances that you gave there.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of good, talented kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was editing these programs, they were 2.5, 3 hours long. I would spend weeks in post-production, and I always noticed there was a little something different when you gave a performance. It was just a little different, you could tell. So it didn't surprise me in the least that you jumped out there and went into acting, but your parents supported you too, and that was very nice.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do without some kind of wall like that to lean on.
Yeah. So it was actually in high school that you determined this is where you want to go?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess I knew by the end of the 4 years, I knew I had some kind of knack for it, and I knew I really liked it. Now then college was like, well, if I go and I do it in college, do I go to a school that just does that, or do I go to a school that's a more well-rounded school in case I get there and go, if I could even get in? I sort of did it step by step. I was sort of walking slowly into the pool. I thought, well, I liked it in high school. If I get into a college to act, then maybe I'll do that. So I ended up going to Miami because I thought, well, if I get there and this training and everything's driving me crazy and I don't want to do this anymore, I could move to another major and I'd be supported there because it's such a good school. But I did. I auditioned around to a couple schools who just did acting and some that were more well-rounded, and ended up going to Miami. And at that point, getting to Miami and then getting the feedback I got there, because high school, you think, well, it's a little pond, maybe.
Right.
Maybe no one knows what they're talking about or whatever. But once I got to college, it sort of reinforced the experiences I had had in high school, and I thought I have to keep going with this.
Yeah. Looking back, what was your favorite high school memory?
My goodness. Well, those variety shows were something special, actually. It was just, I loved the community of it. The theater thing, there was the theater crowd, and then there were, everybody else. But I loved that there were the jocks and the geeks and the theater people and the band people, and everyone was in one sort of communal thing. I also liked it because you got to see different sides of a lot of people that you'd never seen before. It was so sort of pick whatever you want to do. I loved that about it. And I guess senior year, the big thing that we do when the whole class gets on the stage and sings.
Right.
It's a powerful little memory.
Yeah.
But in terms of shows, I guess, gosh, The Music Man, I think that was, Harold Hill's you don't get to do that too often.
Yeah,
So
Music Man was big.
that was a fun.
It was a huge success.
Yeah, that was a fun show. So I love that. But every little play we did in that little tiny black box, I point like it's there. The first time in this monstrous,
nice theater.
Gorgeous theater.
And tell the viewers what it was like at the old high school. I mean, this is phenomenal to have this.
Yeah, this is like Broadway.
But,
well, we were in Parish Auditorium was the variety shows.
Right.
Do we do the musicals there too? I think.
I think there were a few that were done there.
But we also used the gym.
Yes.
I'm asking you because I literally don't remember it all. But yeah, we were in a gymnasium, for those few of those musicals with an orchestra with the acoustics going all over the walls and people in folding chairs, as I remember it. And Parish I actually kind of liked as a theater. I thought that was kind of an okay place to be. It actually had a pit, I remember.
Right.
An orchestra pit. And then we had the little black box in the high school, which was just, sort of tucked next to the lockers for the band people, I think, or something, as I remember. And we had a little wall of fame, with all our pictures as we went down the hallway. But it was literally 20 or 30 seats or something like that.
Yeah. We still have a wall of fame. It's out behind us, behind me.
I have to go check that out.
There's a lot of photos, people that Fairfield students and others. I know I've seen your picture, but I don't think it's out there. I think it's up in Mr. and Mrs. D's little corner of the world. And I've seen that up there a couple of times and often wondered how you were doing. And then I turn on the TV. There you are. Doing well. What teachers? What in high school and college? What teachers gave you, the feel that you knew what you were going? You mentioned Jim and Pat.
Mm-hmm.
College level and high school level. Was there anybody else?
Boy, Jim and Pat for sure. Just in terms of like always going back to your parents. If I had theater parents, they would probably be it. And Diane Robinson for sure for the variety shows, absolutely. Just for making it so fun and giving me so many opportunities. In college, Janice Dean was my first studio professor where we had studio, which was about 8 hours a day of just training and voice and movement and, dialects and the whole 9 yards. But Jan Dean was sort of our main professor, and she was so hard on us in a great, great way. And she didn't let a lot slip. And I think we were very lucky to have her. She was actually going to leave Miami and stayed to finish my senior year.
Nice.
Which I'm grateful for. Stan Brown is another who I'm still friends with today. He's just a great mentor to me about life, in addition to his abilities as a teacher. He's an amazing man. Rosalind Benson. Who else? My goodness. Mike Griffiths. I mean, there were so many people. Martin Benson. Gosh, there were a lot of folks in Miami with such formative years, that I look back on that, all guided in one way or another. But those are the names that pop out off the bat.
I'm not sure how they, being Mr. and Mrs. D, Mrs. Robinson, put up with the cast that they had to put up with. You kids were all a handful. A lot of kids involved.
Yeah.
You had mentioned before the jocks were on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
The theater people, the musicians. It was pretty well rounded.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how they
That's
put up
why
with all of that.
They deserve a special spot, in heaven. They are saints for sure.
No. Was there ever a time when you said to yourself, I just can't do this?
Yes. It wasn't early on, I think. Early on, you're sort of training and you're so blinded by all that, and you got your eye on the prize and you don't know how hard it's going to be or what might happen. But there was a couple years, I moved to Los Angeles 3 months after graduating from Miami. Packed everything I owned into a little red Eclipse, waved to my parents and hit the road. And the first 6 months there was a little just excitement about living in a new place, trying to learn the freeways, trying not to get mugged, whatever you want to call it. And then I got into commercials pretty quickly, and I was doing some commercials. And that was okay, but they were sort of here and there. And I just remember thinking, and I've done this 2 or 3 times out there, I just don't know. Is it going to be this way the rest of my life? Am I just going to be, And I actually started looking at, about 3 years in there, I think it was, at working in advertising, or what else would I do? If it's going to be this hard, what else? Because I've never considered anything else. I've always been an actor. And as soon as I did that, I got a job. And I started to think, maybe I should do that more often. There's 2 ways you get a job. You start thinking you want to quit, because it will always suck you back in, or you buy a plane ticket. Because whenever I buy a plane ticket, there's a job right on the day I'm supposed to fly out. So, but yeah, you start to go, well, should I? But it's been so long now. I've been there 13 years. And this is still all I've ever done. And I've made a living that way for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
With no other side job. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
And
I remember when you came back home for a visit. You stopped by my office. You showed me some of the commercials.
Yeah.
I was impressed. You even had a little 2-week stint on The Bold and the Beautiful soap opera.
Yeah, I did a couple episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful, and I think that was, I didn't have an agent then or anything. It was just a casting director who had seen me in a play, because I was doing a lot of theater there at first as well. But yeah, commercials were my bread and butter for 7 years.
What commercials? Which ones? What were they?
Oh gosh, let's see. Well, there's Bud Light.
Yep.
That was a big one. That was one, the first season of Survivor. Bud Light. It was a commercial of me and this other guy on a raft, and it ran every survivor. And that we shot in Hawaii, which was a lot of fun. Morgan Stanley, you know those ads that they would say, I'm not her dad, I'm the Morgan Stanley guy.
Yep.
I was the first Morgan Stanley guy. I was the first net zero commercial.
Yep.
I was a spokesperson for them. I was a spokesperson for Northwest Airlines for a little while. Jack in the Box, Sears, Chevrolet, Saturn, Hyundai. I mean, just commercials.
Jack in the Box is the burger place.
Jack in the Box is a local burger
out
place.
west,
Exactly.
yes,
Yeah.
We don't have the Jack in the Box here, but so
Right.
they know.
Right.
It's the little drive-through burger place
Yes.
out west.
Yes.
How do you prepare for a role?
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like all the training you do gives you different tool belts to wear, or different tools in your belt to use. And I'm one of those guys that likes to I don't go by one method or one anything. I kind of like to pick and choose from here, there, and there. And the more you do it, the more you sort of recognize things you have within you that you can bring out, or accents or whatever. Experiences surely help. But I think the first thing is just reading it quite a bit, and getting as many clues as you can from the script. And then the next thing I do is, without even trying to, usually is I get focused on the outside. Like shoes and clothes and things are a big deal for me at auditions, because it just helps me convince myself, you know.
Become the character.
Exactly, to become the character. I like that visual for some reason. I think I was always a visual learner, so I like the outside. I just like the feel of things. I'll grow facial hair, comb what little hair I have left differently. Glasses are a big thing for me. I love those. So once I get that on, then I feel a bit safer to play around with the guts of the person, and then knowing your lines really well helps.
Yeah.
Which is a task sometimes.
It would be difficult to learn, I mean, especially for theater.
Mm-hmm.
You screw up, it's out there.
Right.
With television and film both, unless it's a live program, you can go back and patch things up.
Right.
But with the live theater, what do you do when you forget your lines? Ad-lib?
Well, it's only happened to me a couple times, thankfully, because theater you get to rehearse for.
Right.
You rehearse about a month, and then by that time I'm usually pretty sailing. And in fact, the only two times it's happened to me were very late in the run, when you are under the illusion you know everything, and it was a musical, which is even worse, because not only can you not just say any line, but it has to be in rhythm and on note with something else that you're forgetting. And it was three guys in a row, and we each had a verse. And I remember stepping up and going, okay, and we're all doing the thing, and the first guy goes, and I'm thinking, I don't think I know my thing. What is my thing? And the next guy goes, and I'm like, and I thought, I'm just gonna let it go, and I'm sure it'll come out of my mouth. And I went, that's exactly what I said, and it's on tape. You know, it was one of the two nights they taped the show, and so I looked like an idiot, but it was fun. And it really doesn't happen that often. The funny thing about TV film is that, you can go back and retape, but you really don't want to be screwing up your lines if you're, a guest star or whatever. It just doesn't look good. But also, you'll do it so many times that it doesn't make sense anymore. If it's a complicated speech, I had a speech on JAG once about some stealth plane, the DOD, and the high-tech, and when you say those words that you don't even quite understand enough, it's like Bill Cosby used to say, obey. If you say obey enough times, it doesn't make sense. So you have to really concentrate to keep that language fresh, and because otherwise you can just get, you'll lose the meaning of it, and then you start forgetting it because you don't know what you're saying.
LAX. Yeah. You played the role of a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
When you're out there in front of the camera, you've got these lines. I don't know if the people realize this or not, but there's places where they will, if you really lose your place, they'll put your script for you out in places where you're looking, but it's off camera. Mm-hmm. And I know that helps some actors get through it. Have they done that with you?
No, I've never gotten to do that.
Good for you.
Sometimes they put them on legal pads or whatever,
Yep.
or they'll just write them out. And in fact, I got, I did a Boston Legal episode just a couple months ago. And there was this line that said, if you'll refer to the contract. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'll whip out a contract and I'll read this next line, which was a bunch of legalese in the event of a material processing complication, life to whatever the thing was. And I get there and I said, so where's my contract? Because I was just going to, sometimes the prop guy will actually, the contract will look very authentic. So I figured, the line will be right there. And I memorized it anyway, but I was sort of hoping I could lean on that. And I got there and I said, where's my contract thing? He goes, you don't need that. This guy's got it memorized. He does it all the time. And I thought, all right. I do have it memorized, but doggone it, I wanted to cheat. You know? Sometimes you want to cheat. But
Eric, you've got a pretty extensive list of accomplishments, and I'm just going to read. These are from the trademarktalent.com, which is your agent. We're going to read a few of these so the folks at home know what your accomplishments
Sure.
are. In television, you've got Boston Legal, which you mentioned, Journeyman, Entourage, Burn Notice, ER, Cold Case, Ghost Whisperer, CSI New York, The West Wing, Without a Trace, CSI, The Perverts, NCIS, Judging Amy, JAG, LAX, The Shield, McBride, The Bernie Mac Show, All of Us, Wanda at Large, Oliver Bean. With film, you move on into Killer Moves, Mr. Woodcock, Brutal, Bondage, AM 1200, Paul is Dead, The Inside Track. Is it Roner?
it is.
Roner. We'll leave this one off. Nostradamus. We're on local cable. We won't say that one. And in the theater, you're pretty active. The Rubicon Theater, which I think a lot of people will recognize. Driving Miss Daisy, A Streetcar Named Desire, Empire State, Asylum, Ugly's First World, Arsenic and Old Lace, Blues Brothers 2000, $70 to a Bus Ride Home, The Cactus Complex, The Scottish Play, The Normal Heart, The American Clock, The Foreigner, Romeo, Juliet, Assassins, Burn This, and additional material. You've done a few little music videos, and folks, you can see the excerpts of these if you visit the trademark.com website.
Trademarktalent.com.
Trademark Talent.
That's my manager, not my agent.
That's your manager. Okay, manager, trademarktalent.com. You can go there and see some of Eric's work. And it's quite an extensive list. How did you, like Universal Studios Hollywood, the theater, how did you land jobs like that?
That was, when I first moved to LA, I knew I needed to get some kind of day job. And but I was trying to think of a job that would have some sort of acting bias. And I auditioned to become a tour guide on their little trams that go through the studios, which was quite an intensive little process. But I got hired, and so I was a tour guide for 6 months there. After that, I started doing commercials. And then a little ways down the road, they had auditions for the Blues Brothers, their stage show in the park. And so I auditioned for that and ended up being, they have 5 teams of people. But I was on one of those teams to play the Dan Aykroyd role in the Blues Brothers, which was a lot of fun. We toured around, we did parades, we would do meet and greets, and then the work in the park, which was great because if you had an audition, another guy could replace you. Pay was great. It was a good group of people. It was a lot of fun.
Rubicon Theater. How'd you end up there?
Rubicon Theater. A guy I had met. I say everything I've gotten in LA has come from theater. Every single thing. Every agent I've gotten came as a recommendation from an actor I met doing a play. You can trace everything back to a play. And this is another example of that. A guy I met in a play, Brian McDonald, started working for them in a managerial sense. And he had been for quite a while, and I never auditioned there. And then they were doing Streetcar Named Desire. And he said, I think you would make a great Mitch. So I went up and auditioned, and I got Mitch. And I did Mitch opposite Linda Pearl. I don't know if you know, but who's an amazing actress. And so that was my sort of first, and that was my first equity job. It got me the stage actors union is Actors Equity.
Right.
So that got me my equity card, and I just fell in love with the place. It's in Ventura, so it's not in LA. It's like 45 minutes out, but you can still make it back to an audition if you have one. And the people there, it's a small town, you know, and the people there are just the most lovely, warm. You know, they're just like another Jim and Pat Davis.
Yep.
And we just formed this great relationship. And so ever since then, they've been throwing other stuff my way. So I do about a show a summer there. Summer being the time it's slowest in TV film, because
Right.
I can't really do both anymore. But yeah, I'll do about a play a summer, and it's just a fantastic, you don't get to use those muscles in film and TV. So it's a great outlet to keep my theater roots alive. Sure. Out there, you know.
I think a lot of actors do that. I don't know if people realize that or not, but
It's just
a lot of theater in the LA area, and it's not just in the Hollywood, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
And same as in New York. I know some people kind of jog back and forth between the two just to get back to their roots, which is the theater.
Yeah, it's just a completely different animal, and I like doing, I've done it in LA a bunch too, but I like doing it in Ventura because there's a lot of people doing theater in LA hoping to get an agent or hoping to be on a TV show or whatever. And the folks doing it in Ventura, and that's fine, I did that too, but the folks in Ventura are really doing it just to make good theater.
Yep.
They're not there to try and, you know, but we've had great people there. Jack Lemmon, the last time he was on stage was at the Rubicon. A lot of amazing names across those boards. So,
What do you enjoy the most? Television, movies, or the theater?
Boy, they all have their pluses. I mean, theater's great because it's a direct connection with an audience, and you get to do the whole thing at once, which is nice. Television is nice because it's regular. You know, if you're on a series, you work a certain amount of weeks, and then you're off for the summer, and then you're back. But it can be really, really long days.
Yes.
And fairly methodical too. Some of those shows that I've been on are like machines. You know, you sort of walk in there like, okay, you're going to be here. And they know exactly how they shoot every episode. And there's something sort of, I don't know, that can be kind of dry.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it. I don't want it to sound like it's a bad experience. It's just, it can be a rather a less creative experience.
Yep.
Movies are great. Movies are great because a lot of the time in television, you know, you're locked into, if it's an hour show, 42 minutes of content, which means if you had some sort of thought you were having that took a little too long in editing, they can just snip that off. And it can rob some of your performance from you, which I'm opposed to. But in movies, it's the length of the film, you know, whatever it is. So it just, you can do more with the content. You're not obligated to, you know, only say certain words because it's television, or it's just I think it's a great, highly creative, a little more free zone to work in.
Any plays you've done that have gone on to become a movie?
Yes, there is a great crossover there. A play, I did a reading of a play called Mating Dance of the Werewolf, written by a great playwright named Mark Stein at the Rubicon. And it went and became a production that started in Canada and then moved to, the Rubicon has a partnership with a theater in Canada, the Manitoba Theatre Center. So they share a lot of shows. And it became a production, and I was not in the production because of this various reasons. But then a year or two later, Kate Kaplan wrote a screenplay version of the play, and I got to do Alan, the character I read in the reading, who I loved so much, great character, in the movie. And we just wrapped that like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And that's the Killer Moves movie, which may be being renamed, I'm not quite sure. But so hopefully that'll be out soon. But it's great when those two worlds collide. That's a lot of fun.
What's the audition process like?
The audition process is every day there's something that goes out to all agents and managers called the breakdowns. And it has a listing of every show and what roles that show needs for that week. Or movies or documentaries, anything, everything is on there. So my manager will look through that and he'll decide I'm right for this, this, and this, submit the headshots, and then hopefully we get a phone call. And of course there are probably 3,000 headshots going in for any given role. So just to get an audition where they see, I don't know, they might see 30, 100 people is a tremendous achievement already. And then they'll call in about, I don't know, 150, 20, it depends on the casting director, to be seen. And early on, you'll just be called in to read for the casting director. And then they'll have what's called a producer call, where the producers, the writers, the director, whatever, will be in the room. And you read for them, and then you get the part, hopefully. But the process of auditioning is pretty, it's the most anti-theatrical thing I can imagine. You're usually in an office, and there's a desk there and a bookcase and fluorescent lighting, and you get a chair and you're holding your sides, which is what they call a script. And you're just sort of, you know, reading with a casting director who may or may not be reading with much enthusiasm. Yeah. But it's a very undramatic thing.
Well, I would think it'd be a little intimidating too. You're not actually in a theater setting.
No.
It's walking into the office and become this character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's just very, it's fluorescent lighting and a desk and a chair, and everyone sort of tends to sit there like this and watch you. You know, they've had a long day, and so it can be rather intimidating.
Yeah. What do you lean towards more? The dramas, the comedies?
I always thought I would be doing sitcoms. I always thought that's where my thing would be. But what's funny is I've done very few of the sitcoms. I've mainly, that list you'll see is mainly 1 hour dramas. In fact, we joke we're going to have to start making new shows because almost every 1 hour drama on CBS I've done. So those tend to be the things I end up doing. For some reason, someone thinks I look harmless enough in an average way that would make me an interesting person to harm other people. I mean, you always see a serial killer or whoever on the news, and everyone goes, "It looks like my neighbor."
Right.
So with this mug, apparently, that's a lot of the roles I get are these rather devious guys.
You play a pretty convincing murderer.
Oh man, yeah, I've ran the gamut.
Yeah, Cold Case comes to mind. You were actually a pretty good size role for you too.
It was a great role, yeah.
Yeah, and I one of my favorite shows. But I think it's interesting a lot of times, if you look at television, you'll see where the characters that come in small parts here and there come back as a major character further on down the line. It could be a year, 2 years. A lot of times, I see it a lot in Law and Order. You'll see a lot of the people that come in and play a small part come back to take on a major part. And that's got to be a little encouraging too, to know that they are looking at your accomplishments.
Yeah, that would be fun.
What are you working on right now? What's your current project?
Right now, I did a reading of a pilot about 6 months ago. And 6 months later, well, again, it goes back to theater. A friend of mine is James Denton, who's the plumber on Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
And one of the nicest guys on the planet. And he asked me to do this reading he was reading the lead of, and I was reading his best friend. It's called The Renegades.
Uh-huh.
And it was about a band that was together like in high school and college with these guys. And one of the guys gets married to my sister, the best friend's sister. And that sort of causes ruffles, and the band breaks up for various reasons. And the lead guy goes the corporate route and leads the married life and has kids. And then my character, the best friend, goes off the other way and moves to an island and starts drinking banana daiquiris and living the high life. He develops an internet scam that makes him millions of dollars. So I have no job. I have a Gulfstream and a boat. And then the corporate guy, the married guy, gets divorced. And I see it as an opportunity to reel him into the island lifestyle and to get this band back together. And it's a very sweet little show. so they, 6 months later, after doing the reading of the pilot, called and said, we want to make 6 episodes. So it's being independently produced, and we're shooting in South Carolina for 2 months and Catalina for a little while. And at the end of 6 episodes, they're going to shop it around to networks and see where it might land. So it's very exciting.
Hopefully the network will pick it up,
Absolutely.
become a regular series, which is a nice achievement for you.
Absolutely.
And you've got second lead?
Yeah, it's a good ensemble show, but the 2 main characters are Jack and his family, and then the best friendship that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a nice opportunity.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
That's what the beard and the hair is for. So.
Stay in the character.
Yeah, trying to get there by March.
Back to the TV shows again. What's your favorite TV show?
Oh gosh. Well, favorite accomplishment, I think, would be ER. Because when I first moved to LA, I lived in Burbank, and I would drive by Warner Brothers all the time. There's a stoplight right there, and when you look up from the stoplight at Warner Brothers, they have all their posters of their shows on the studio. And at that time, it was 1995, 96. ER was the #1 show on the planet, and that poster was always right there. And I would look up at that poster and would think, "Gosh, if I could do anything on that show." And I had done extra work very early on in my career there, and I was an extra on ER. And I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh. And I remember taking home one of the surgical gloves I wore, and I didn't steal, though. I didn't steal. And I just left the day feeling just high as a kite. And I thought, boy, if I could just say a line, if I could just, And 8 years later, I got an audition for a guest star on ER, and I got it. And it was a dad fighting for his child, so it was the perfect kind of role.
Yeah.
So as far as arc goes, it was a nice little way to see progress, and to see that I'd gone somewhere. But my favorite, that's probably one of my favorites actually. Cold Case is probably one of the best roles I've had on television. That was just a fun character. And again, a show about a community theater, doing a production of Cabaret, which I did in college.
Yep.
Which I played the MC, which was a blast. So that was just a sort of a fun, another collision of theater and TV. But.
Yeah, the Warner Brothers, it's pretty impressive. You go through, I mean, they'll even take you on a tour through. You can go through the set of ER. You get to see the setup. Everything's so small. Everything, it's incredible when you walk through. Yeah. Some of the sets, how actually they're so much smaller. They look so much larger in real life. They are on TV, and it just has a way of looking larger.
Yeah.
They shoot that on film,
mm-hmm.
and not a lot of room for mistakes there. But an exciting show. I think that's pretty big accomplishment too, Eric.
Yeah. The fun thing about that set is it's all one giant thing. When you walk in the soundstage, the set goes all the way to the other side of the soundstage. It's all connected.
Yep.
Some shows, you have a room here, and then you have craft services right behind it where all the food is, and chairs and everything. But so once you walk in that world, you really feel like you're there. But it is always a little underwhelming to see.
Yeah. What would you say to anyone out there now that is considering, I think I want to be in television, I think I want to be in theater? What would you say to them?
Oh boy, I would just say do it as much as you possibly can, because that's what gave me a great leg up. I think I got to do a lot of plays in high school, and I did everything I could. Readings for plays in my living room. We would make little movies. My friends and I, when we were kids. It was just all about exercising the imagination and exercising your little tool belt. And then in college, I got to do so many plays. Luckily, that when I got to LA, I really felt like I'd had some experience. Because once you get, somewhere and you get in those rooms and you're auditioning for things, you want to have your stuff together. You want to be as prepared as you can. Which is the other thing I would recommend is if you find through doing it a bunch, you love it, then go get some training, go study, take a class, or if you don't want to major in it or whatever, but get in some kind of class that will allow you to get better and better.
If there's even in Fairfield, we've got the community theater. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they have their day jobs.
Yeah.
just to that release.
Yeah.
They have the community theater. And for a lot of people, that's enough. But there's other people that aspire to go just a little bit further. And that's why we brought you in here today,
Wow.
to give a little encouragement to the folks out there watching this in Fairfield, Ohio.
Sure.
And Eric, appreciate the time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for
sitting
having me.
down chatting with us. Good luck in your career. Folks at home, you can go to the website, trademarktalent.com, check out some of Eric's work. I think it's fascinating, some of the little clips they have on there. So give it a visit. And Eric, again, thank you. Good luck in your career.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on TV.
Appreciate it.